Hello dear students, welcome back to online English classes. This is session 4. Let's have a small recap of what we have learned in the previous session. In the previous session, we discussed 7 important observations of George Mike's in different parts of Japan. And we know that 6 of them are related to bowing. And at the end, George Mike's concludes his observation with his humorous comments on the Japanese way of eating soup. We have seen that the Japanese follow certain basic rules inside their family. All the family members strictly follow certain basic bowing rules in their family first. And we have seen how parents guide their children in learning bowing culture, how the parents monitor their development in order to establish routines and behavioral patterns. And we have seen how Japanese mothers carry their babies on their back in a little saddle. And we have seen how even babies in Japan learn to bow even before they can speak. And we have seen how bowing girls in Japanese stores who stand at the top of escalators bow deeply and differentially to all and sundry. And we have also come across that even conductors on trains bow to each other ceremoniously. And it shows that bowing has become an integral part of each and every profession in Japan. But we have also understood that this custom would seem creepy, servile and robotic out of Japan. Next, the author narrates his experience in one of the parts of Nara. And we have seen how even an animal like deer does bowing in Japan. And we have seen how the deer bowed to the author, jumped at him and snatched the little food bag from his hand which he had bought for the deer. Well, using this incident as an analogy, the author makes fun of Japanese people for their ugly behavior while boarding a bus. The reader, who had been encouraged to develop a kind of admiration for the Japanese habit of respectful bowing, is stunned and shocked by their ugly behavior while boarding a bus. As I already told you, at the end, George Mike's concludes his observation with his humorous comments on the Japanese way of eating soup. With this, we have completed the first excerpt of the lesson titled Japanese Manners. Well, in this lesson, we will start with the second excerpt of the lesson titled Traffic in Brazil. As I already told you in my introductory session, this excerpt titled Traffic in Brazil is chosen from George Mike's book How to Tango, where he talks about some of his experiences in South America. Remember, Brazil is also one of the South American countries. South America is the 4th largest continent in the world, and it includes 12 sovereign countries, and they are Brazil, Argentina, Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela and a part of France. Well, you might have heard about an idiomatic expression two to tango. It's a common idiomatic expression which suggests something in which more than one person or other entity are paired in an inextricably related and active manner, and occasionally with negative connotation. But here the author slightly changed this idiomatic expression two to tango into how to tango and given it as the title of his book. We know that tango is one of the famous partner dances that emphasizes the vibrant and playful styles of movement, rich expression, improvisation, and it requires close connection and passion between the two dances. Well, the meaning of the title of his book has been extended to include any situation in which the two characters are considered to be very, very essential. Well, in this excerpt titled Traffic in Brazil, George Mike's gives his humorous comments and makes fun of traffic in Brazil. He introduces us to the Brazilian attitude towards car driving. He also talks about the lifestyle, ambience and the aesthetic sense of people of Brazil. And most importantly, he talks about how speed driving in Brazil has become a matter of grave importance to the people of Brazil. So let us get into the lesson. Let us read and understand the text. Nobody hurries in Brazil. It does not really matter whether you reach your destination an hour too soon, a day late, or not at all. Well, the author narrates his experiences while walking through the streets of Copacabana. Well, Copacabana is the sector of the city Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. The magnificent jungle-clad mountains raised from the ocean seem to be blended with the beauty of Copacabana beach. Copacabana occupied a narrow stripe of land between the mountain and the sea, and it is very famous for its magnificent 4-kilometer long curved beach, and it is also known as Copacabana Promenade. Well, here promenade means a path for walking, especially built next to the sea. As I already told you, Copacabana is a 4-kilometer long landscape of mosaic sidewalk paving along with the Copacabana beach, and it is one of the most identifiable public space features in history. And Copacabana is a renowned hotspot for tourists all over the world. It is just like a paradise with its stunning beaches, lively streets, where the party never seems to end. Well, the very first line, nobody hurries in Brazil, is a comment on Brazilians' time consciousness. The author casually says nobody hurries in Brazil, but as soon as he said this, he immediately sarcastically adds, it does not really matter whether you reach your destination an hour too soon, a day late, or not at all. He comments that the Brazilians do not seem to be bothered about time, however close by or far off their destination may be. The people do not show any hurriedness. They do not seem to bother when they are going to reach the destination. It may be an hour too soon, or a day late, or they may not reach the destination. So the people of Brazil do not seem to be bothered about time it might take for them to reach the destination. So the combination of city's unhurried life is a beach attitude and day-to-day delays caused by traffic, especially in the city of Rio de Janeiro, people have learned neither to expect nor appreciate punctuality in a social setting. So nobody hurries in Brazil. Then the author turns his attention towards the grey pavements in Copacabana street. And he says, the grey pavements in the streets of Copacabana are often decorated with beautiful black mosaic, a unique type of decoration. The grey pavements in the Copacabana street represents a famous use of traditional pavement style called Portuguese pavement. And the pavement is created by setting black and white stones in an harmonic way, revealing distinctive tiled pattern. And these small and flat stones arranged in a pattern like a mosaic. As I already told you, Copacabana Promenade is a 4-kilometer long landscape of mosaic sidewalk paving along with the Copacabana beach. And the pattern exhibits resembling the waves of the sea. The author gives his compliments to this distinctive style, and he also compliments the people for the talent for decorating such pavements. Then he remarks, only people alive to beauty in their surroundings and who have plenty of time for contemplation during their meditative and ambulatory exercises would take the trouble to decorate the pavements they walk on. He says people who love beauty in their surroundings, people who love artistic creations would take the trouble to decorate the pavements they walk on. He also says that people who have plenty of time for contemplation. Here contemplation means a deep thinking for a long time or a deep observation for a long time. And he says People who have plenty of time for contemplation during their meditative and ambulatory exercises would take the trouble to decorate the pavements they walk on. This also shows that people of Copacabana also give importance to their physical fitness. They practice meditation and they also do ambulatory exercises in beachsides. Here ambulatory exercises, it refers their walking style. Well, he uses a pompous term called ambulatory exercise to refer to their walking style. And we should note that though the author is appreciating the people for their aesthetic sense, he also makes fun of their sluggish walking style, their slow movement and lethargic attitude of people. From this we can infer that the people of Copacabana are alive to the beauty in their surroundings. They walk very slowly and meditatively and they have plenty of time for contemplation. Let us move on to the next paragraph. There is a sudden shift in the tone of his narration in the second paragraph when the author introduces us to the Brazilian attitude towards car driving. Everything was fine, calm, so serenic, and we find people are very relaxed. They take all the trouble to decorate the pavements they walk on. So all these things looks fine until the author introduces us to the reckless driving style of Brazilians. He says, however, as soon as these easygoing, leisurely characters get a steering wheel in their hands, no speed is fast enough for them. You would then be inclined to believe that gaining 1/10 of a second is a matter of grave importance for all of them all the time. The author tells us that the same leisurely character whom we have seen decorating their pavements they walk on, when they get behind a steering wheel or when they start driving, they transform themselves reckless drivers. They drive very fast and reckless. And the author says no speed is fast enough for them. Even if they drive with maximum RPM or with maximum speed, even if they drive with 100 kilometers per hour, 150 kilometers per hour or even 200 kilometers per hour, it is not enough for them. They want to drive the cars even faster. Though the Brazilians have strict traffic rules, the speed limit in Brazil is typically 30 kilometers per hour in residential areas, 60 kilometers per hour in main avenues and 80 to 110 kilometers per hour on main roads. The drivers violates all these rules because for them gaining 1/10 of a second is a matter of grave importance. The author, having made a comment about their time consciousness, having appreciated their effort to decorate the pavements they walk on, now he says gaining 1/10 of a second has become a matter of grave importance for all of them all the time. Gaining 1/10 of a second means they don't leave even a fraction of second in driving. They consider each and every second is very, very important to show their speed driving skills. And this attitude has become more dangerous. It creates chaos in the lives of people, especially in the city of Rio de Janeiro. And the author says it has become a matter of grave importance for all of them all the time. Here grave importance means likely to produce great harm or danger in the lives of people. The reader cannot but infer that the people of Copacabana are very slow only while walking and reckless while driving. Let us move on to the next paragraph. The author says, motor cars are extremely expensive in Brazil, import duties being crippling and murderous. Only a few other poorer South American states are in a worse position in this respect. The author remarks that buying a motor car in Brazil is an extremely expensive event because import duties for importing cars from other countries is very high. In this context, the author compares Brazil with other South American states and says, only a few other poorer South American states or in a worse position in this respect. Here we should understand that the economy of South American countries are not up to the mark. Most of the South American countries import vehicles, goods and other products from North American countries. When they import vehicles, products and other goods from North American countries, they have to pay a large amount of tax to the North American states. And Brazil have one of the highest tax burdens in the world. And the cost of buying a motor car is equally high. For each car sold in Brazil, the car maker profits 10%, while in the USA it is only 3%. According to IHS Automotive Consulting, 32% of the cost of a brand new car is directly related to tax. And do you know that China is Brazil's main supplier of auto parts, accounting for 32%. That is why the author says import duties are being crippling and murderous. Here crippling and murderous means, since because of this gradual hike in the price of vehicles and a huge import duty for importing cars, it makes the people of Brazil unable to afford cars. Since the standard of living is very poor when compared to North American countries, people in Brazil find it very difficult to pay such huge import duties for buying a new car. And this situation made the people of Brazil disabled and weak. Disabled in the sense not being able to afford a car. Then he says, complaints are universal. Hardly anyone can afford a car. Yet this only means that the number of motor vehicles is growing by leaps and bounds, almost as if cars were distributed free of charge to all and sundry. Thus, the pedestrian's life is becoming more hazardous every day. Well, the author gives a surprising fact here. He says, complaints are universal. Hardly anyone can afford a car in Brazil. Having said this, he proceeds to say that, yet you find an unimaginably large number of motor cars in Brazil. Then he makes a satirical comment on the craze of people in buying cars. And he says, the number of motor vehicles is growing by leaps and bounds as if they were distributed free of charge to all and sundry. Here the author uses an idiomatic expression called leaps and bounds. Here the idiomatic expression leaps and bounds shows the rapid growth in the number of motor cars in Brazil, as if each and everyone owning a car for free of cost. That means you find large number of motor cars in Brazil. It seems motor cars were distributed free of cost for all of them. Well, we have to understand that in Brazil, the rise of middle class has significantly increased the number of motor cars. Owning a motor car in Brazil indicates high social status. It is a priority to buy a car in Brazil. Even the people with low annual income as low as 15,000 real. Owning a car in Brazil has become an inevitable thing. The author is also expressing his surprise and doubt at the capacity of the people in affording a car and to pay such huge import duties to buy a car. As we already discussed, the standard of living in Brazil is not up to the mark when compared to North American states. But still, you can find large number of motor cars in Brazil because of the craze of people towards driving cars, because they consider it as a social status to own a car. And at the end of the paragraph, the author says, the pedestrian's life is becoming more hazardous every day. Why he say this? It is because of the increase in the number of cars in Brazil. It also creates a kind of threat to the life of pedestrians. I'll stop here. I'll continue in the next session. But in the next session, we will learn why the drivers always look out for pedestrians to step off the pavement, and we will discuss about the war between the drivers. And we will also discuss about humorous situation in crossing the road of Avenida Presidente. Well, before ending my session, I have a few questions for you to check your understanding. And the questions are, what are the pavements in the streets of Copacabana decorated with? Question number 2, why are the motor cars expensive in Brazil? What happens when leisurely people in Brazil get a steering wheel in their hands? So write answers to these questions and send it back to us through WhatsApp. I'll see you in the next session. Thank you.